Hey fam, you ain't ready for this.
It's big money, big cars, big moves. It's muscle tone, brah, there ain't nothing to prove. The best breeds from the States to the outback. Keep your eyes peeled, guaranteed you gon' learn that. Beanstalk, big boss on lock. If a canine was God, it would be this dog.
What's up, everybody, and welcome to the next episode of Muscletonebullys. So today we have a Cars and Coffee at Gulf Coast Motorsports in Naples, Florida. And after that, the guys were all doing a rally together. We're getting some food and all that. During this journey, I'm going to take you guys along. I'm going to discuss health. Health with the dogs is very, very important, something that you guys have been missing out on. And what's the key ingredient to creating and producing more healthier dogs so that they can have a long longevity like Magoo does, like Claude does, like Simba did before Magoo died at 19 years old. I mean, that is probably the record I've ever heard of an American bully's lifespan. 14, 13, 12. These are how a lot of our legend dogs are at that age right now and still alive. So we're going to discuss what the key ingredient is for that and how to breed for that. And also, it's not just breeding, but also how to take care of your dogs so that they can live a very long time. So follow us. We'll talk more about it. All right, so we're going to take the Aventador route to the Gulf Coast Cars and Coffee and a little small rally we're doing afterwards with the guys. So let's discuss health. The most important factor when it comes to health of a dog is not so much the exercise and the food that you feed it. Yes, this helps quite a bit, believe it or not. It's not the most important factor. The most important factor is the genetic composition of the pool that you've created. You'll notice that people who live a long time usually have parents who live a long time. People who have cholesterol, their children have cholesterol. People who have heart issues, their children have heart issues. Now, is this 100%? No. In many cases, you might have a healthier child than a parent, so on and on. But at the most part, the pool itself is what's going to dictate how long you live. No food and exercise can overcome that enough to make up for it. It can help, but it does not overcome it. So keep that in mind. That is the most important aspect. If you have a dog in your gene pool that is known to have died at a young age, and his offsprings have been dying at a young age, and so on and on and on, the chances are that you need to get rid of this whole pool. You got to get rid of it. It doesn't seem like it's bettering itself. It doesn't seem like you fixed anything with it to start with, and you're just passing on problems. So that's the number one issue, and I see a lot of that. I know which dogs they come from because I've been around for 20-some years, and I know which dogs lived how long. I mean, I know very big name dogs who have so many descendants who only made it to 4 years old, and I'm 6 years old, and they have thousands and thousands of offsprings and great offsprings. And I know some that live to 8 or 9, which is a decent age, but it's not the ideal age. The ideal age is at least 10, okay? At least. I prefer 12, 13, 14, 15. So let's say 12 to 15 would be an ideal age. I've had dogs live way past that, believe it or not. My oldest lived to 19. He was put down. He didn't die from natural causes. But he was suffering at that age. And I didn't want to see that. But that obviously is not an expectation you're going to get out of every single dog. So we prefer to keep a realistic idea of 12 to 15, which is we have a whole army of dogs today that are 12, 13, 14 years old who are still alive, that are still around. So big name legends, Magoo, Claude, Bean, Bison. I mean, the list goes on. I can't think of all of them off the top of my head. So these are important factors, and that has a lot to do with using the proper pool. In a way, I was blessed with the first generations of dogs that I had were really healthy, and I continued on that. But as well as I did my part by getting rid of the dogs that were not healthy. Now, a lot of people hear the word extreme, and they assume, it's an overweight dog, it's unhealthy, it's not going to live a long time. And that's why they accused me of having unhealthy dogs, and why they said Magoo wouldn't make it to 5, wouldn't make it to 6, and they said the same thing about Kaza and Bean and so on, and they all passed 12 years old. And the reason for it is because they didn't understand what I was doing. They were just hating and talking based on their small understanding of things, which is what the bully community does, but as well as what the world does in general. Even in the boxing world, the UFC world, I watch guys who've never been in a ring, never fought in their life, that don't know anything else than watching television, drinking beer, and eating, chips, sitting there and talking about how they would have done it. So you have this in all the world. Everyone has an opinion. But the truth is, it was done with finesse, it was done with strategy and understanding. So the main thing was to get rid of the bad stock. That is very important. If you've watched a lot of our dogs doing a stack off and they're calm, and this is not training, guys, this is genetic. The dog next to them snaps, barks, even attacks, and there's a video of Bean being attacked, there's a video of Beanstalk being attacked, there's a video of Kong being attacked. They don't lose their stack. They stand still. They don't react. There's no aggression in muscle tone dogs. There's drive, but there's no aggression. There's a difference. And that is, again, and then you hear people, oh, I want that little spunk in my dog. No, you don't want that spunk in your dog. We're breeding family dogs. We're not breeding fighting dogs. This kind of dog with this kind of aggression is what gives the rest of our dogs a bad reputation. And look at what's happening in the UK. They've already banned the XL American Bully. We don't want this to happen to the rest of our breed. So we need to stand apart from that. And Muscletone has done that from day one to make sure that we separate ourselves from the idea of the bad reputation of an aggressive pit bull or an aggressive bully or an aggressive dog, whatever you want to call it. So the main thing is to breed a healthy dog, proper temperament, so on and on. Now let's go back to the health factor. Once you have the genetic situation, how do I keep my dog to live longer? Food and exercise. They do not require a lot. They really do not. I think the biggest issue you all have is you stuff your dogs. You stuff them and you stuff them and you stuff them and you overfeed them, and they look so fat. When I see most of these American bullies at the shows, they look like a tube. Some of them look so bloated, like they're about to throw up or have diarrhea on the floor. It's disturbing. I can't even tell what the dog looks like. And you're like, look how beastie he is. No, he's not beastie. He's fat. He's fat. Okay? It's like walking into a sumo wrestling match and talking to me about how beastly the sumo wrestler is. Yeah, he's a big ass dude, but he's fat. He's not a bodybuilder. All right? So if you're trying to breed sumo wrestlers, by all means, breed sumo wrestlers, but that's not what an extreme is. That's not what an American bully is supposed to look like. The reason we called our kennel Muscletonebullys was always based on the muscle mass, which I always found it interesting when people would call me and tell me, my dog, he has more muscle than your dog. And they would show me the skinny little dog with no bone. And yeah, your dog is ripped. We're talking about muscle mass. So don't confuse, guys. Don't confuse a skinny, ripped dog, and don't confuse a fat, big bone dog. It has to have a balance. It has to be a big bone with a large skeleton frame with muscular mass, not fat. Okay, so there's an equation to this. The head has to match the body, the bone, like I mentioned in our last episode. If you build a dog in this way and you breed it to continue to look this way, it will live a long time. It will be healthy. Plus, when you go to breed it, you know what you're breeding. Okay, just because your dog is 80 pounds and 15 pounds overweight doesn't mean his puppy's gonna come out 15 pounds overweight and be beastie. No, you're gonna have to stuff them and fatten them up too. That's not, then what you don't know what you're breeding. You're not breeding a frame, you're not breeding a skeleton, you're not breeding anything that's worthy of the word extreme. You're just breeding a fat dog because you've overstuffed him and thinking, oh, let's fatten up all his offsprings and they'll be extreme too. No, that's not how it works. So please, guys, cut the weight down on your dogs. It's not impressive. And even if you show these particular dogs to someone who doesn't know about dogs, and you're walking around your American bully and he's overweight, a lot of people look at him like, man, the dog needs to go on a diet. Imagine not knowing anything about American bullies and seeing a fat bully walking around. It looks like a fat bulldog. It doesn't look impressive. But when you're walking down with a muscular dog, it looks like a gorilla. He's got shoulders, he's got a chest, he's got rear popping out like this, he's got a beautiful little small waistline. That is impressive. People should ask if your dog's on roids. They shouldn't be asking you what you feed them. You understand the difference? So once you get that image in your mind, then you got to start breeding for that image. So Now let's talk a little bit about food. A lot of people ask me what kind of food I feed my dogs. We feed c.e.o as of right now. We had our own dog food in the UK. It was very hard to transport. It's a very good brand. Unfortunately, we could not produce enough of it fast enough. And because of we didn't want to use preservatives, the shelf time wasn't so long. So the food would go bad and we would be wasting. So we took that off right now until we figure out a better formula. But as of right now, we feed c.e.o. Some of our dogs eat Akana. The reason we use Akana is because it has no preservatives, and I prefer it, especially for my higher end dogs. Now, is that a necessary thing to feed such a high end food? Yes and no. I think it's a good food and fed in the proper portions will allow your dog to keep the right balance of weight. A fair amount of exercise, the dog just has to go play outside. That's it. Just let him play. Let him play for a couple hours a day. An hour, 45 minutes. That's all he needs. That's all he needs. He does not need some crazy amount of, exercise. But nevertheless, he needs some. Clean water is very, very important. Use filtration water. A lot of you guys are feeding water out of a dirty faucet. I see dirty bowls. I prefer if you guys would be able to do auto feed waters, like with the little nozzle, so the water is always clean. Clean them up with bleach every day, so the dog's not getting bacteria in his system, so he's not drinking dirty water, which can cause all kinds of issues like giardia, coccidia, so on, which eats up at the guts, guys. It eats up at the guts. Even though you cure it, it causes damage along the way. So you got to make sure it's well taken care of. So I hear people talk about feeding raw. Raw is a great thing to do. Don't get me wrong. Feeding raw works really well. If you can afford to feed raw, by all means, go ahead and feed raw. Does it make a difference on how your dog is gonna look? Again, your appearance of your dog is 99% genetics. Okay, 99% genetics. We're talking health, so the dog can live a long time. So keep that in mind. So as long as you keep your dog at the proper weight, give him the proper exercise, and you feed him a decent food, your dog will live a long time. Just remember factor number one, genetics. Breed the proper dogs. So be careful when you're using a stud. Be careful when you're purchasing a puppy from someone. Look at their reputation. Look at the long-term lifespan of the ancestries in those dogs. Look at the pedigree. How many dogs in that pedigree live to how long? Count them. So it's hard to find a lot of consistency because a lot of people don't really have a bloodline. They're just breeding dogs here and here and here and here and here, and they're just mixing stuff with this idea in their head, not comprehending the bigger picture. It's not as simple as you all think it is. But some of the breeders, Muscle Tone, Razor's Edge, Marco Suarez line, we've built a healthy specimen along the past 2 decades and have passed it on to you guys. Just use it properly, but just be careful what you cross with it. That's all we're saying. So that being said, that concludes our episode for today. And if you guys have any questions, you know where to reach us. Muscletonebullys.com for our website if you want to see what we have, or on our Facebook at Bashar Daoud Muscletone or Muscletone Bullies page. Same with Instagram. You can go to Muscletone's Bashar on Instagram or Muscletone Bullies page on Instagram. So we're easy to find. If you can't reach us, you can reach one of our partners, but we're all here to answer your questions. Talk to you all soon.